What I would say is that I think young people really, maybe for the first 15, 20 years of their life, they conduct their life with regards to how other people see them. So, you know, their choice of partner, girlfriend, boyfriend is, what will other people think of this person? Is she or he pretty enough, good looking enough? Am I doing a course that's going to get me somewhere because I'm going to be impressed by what people think is my career? Am I wearing the right clothes? Do I have the right haircut? Am I doing the right hobbies, pursuits at university? Am I part of a cool crowd? And I think I went through, might even be more than 20 years actually, of my life, certainly when I was 20, more concerned about what other people thought about me than actually probably what I really wanted to do myself.
Welcome to We Need to Talk, where we try to figure out how to find fulfillment in life and reduce dissatisfaction. Listen to this full episode if you'd like to hear why so many adolescents are deeply insecure and consequently seek validation from others. Whether it is choosing a partner that their peers think is attractive, whether it's choosing a university course which their parents approve of, or then afterwards a career which all their LinkedIn connections would feel jealous of. Furthermore, we discuss why capitalism might be accentuating that insecurity in young adults, and also why the modern dismissive attitude towards the concept of God might be contributing to that deep insecurity within people nowadays. So enjoy the episode and don't forget to subscribe. Let's go. Okay, so welcome everybody to We Need to Talk. This channel is dedicated to trying to figure out how to find meaning in life and reduce dissatisfaction. My name's Henry, the host of this channel, and today I'm joined together with my godfather, Marcus. Marcus, would you like to shortly introduce yourself and tell the listener anything you think is important to know about yourself?
Well, as Henry rightly said, my name is Marcus. My full name is Marcus Dalrymple. I got to know Henry really through his father, Martin Clark, who I go back to right back to 1975. We were at school together in England, boarding school together in England, spent a lot of time together, lots of common experience. He's sort of like a brother to me. And over the years, I've sort of got to know the family. And as a result, Henry very kindly invited me to contribute to his channel. So that's me. I'm a teacher by profession. I also write. In fact, sort of writing is probably my passion. But I've been a teacher, an English teacher, for over 25 years. Before that, I was a journalist, and I'm a nomadic spirit. You know, I've traveled a lot as well. So that's sort of me in brief, really.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll link Marcus's work, his books in the description if you want to check them out and see what he's produced. So awesome. Okay, the first question I'd like to ask you, Marcus, is if you could time travel back in time and you could give a piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Well, let me think back to what I was doing when I was 20. So I was at university. I was at university in Scotland at St Andrews. I was studying English and Spanish. I did an MA course. I think looking back, I was a pretty inexperienced, naive, fairly innocent 20-year-old. I'd traveled with my family, done very little independent travel. I'd been ill as a teenager, and so I came to university really quite, as I say, quite naive, quite immature as well. I would say I consider this question often, actually, since you posed it. What I would say is that I think young people really, maybe for the first 15, 20 years of their life, they conduct their life with regards to how other people see them. So, their choice of partner, girlfriend, boyfriend is, what will other people think of this person? Is she or he pretty enough, good looking enough? Am I doing a course that's going to get me somewhere because I'm going to be impressed by what people think is my career? Am I wearing the right clothes? Do I have the right haircut? Am I doing the right hobbies, pursuits at university? Am I part of a cool crowd? And I think I went through, might even be more than 20 years actually, of my life, certainly when I was 20, more concerned about what other people thought about me than actually probably what I really wanted to do myself. And that's actually long term, that's quite crippling, because it prevents you actually from being totally yourself. And I'd say, I know this isn't quite the question you asked me as my 20-year-old self. But even now, probably just now, I've come to the conclusion, actually, I don't care what people think. And it's been actually very freeing. It's been liberating. But certainly as a 20-year-old, I was massively concerned about what I looked like. I was always small, one of the smallest in my year. I was slight. And, I was at university with big hunky jock types, and I was constantly comparing myself to them, and who their friends were, who their girlfriends were, who the people I was hanging out with, what courses I was doing, what activities I was doing. And I know subconsciously my choices partly were dictated by how I thought other people would see me. And I think that's kind of deeply crippling long term. When you look back, you think, my goodness, I probably even bought that house because, I wanted to be in the right neighborhood. I bought that car because I thought people would look up to me. In the end, we're each an island, and in the end, it really doesn't matter what other people think. I don't mean to be, that you should be inconsiderate of other people, but it actually doesn't matter what they think, and it won't add an iota to your life, whether they think your choices are good or bad.
I'm glad you approached it with such an open perspective. What you just said honestly really resonated with me, because I would say, organized my life in a way to be validated by those around me, and it has not worked in, let's say, in favor of making myself feel good. It's worked against me, I would say. But the follow-up question to that, what comes to my mind is, well, how do you reach the point where you don't care anymore, where you listen to what you authentically desire instead of what others think you should be doing?
Well, ironically, as I alluded to, it's actually taken almost a lifetime to come to that conclusion. But your question was an interesting one, because if I could go back and speak to my 20-year-old self, I would say to them, stop what you're doing, really think about who you are. You might not even know who you are, but what journey you want to go on. And in a way, it's irrelevant what other people think, because it's not going to stop them doing what they want to do. And if anything, it'll just prevent you from following the course that you're probably subconsciously destined or fated to pursue. And I think we spend a lot of our life on the wrong track, and we maybe it takes a midlife crisis to get us back on track. But I think the verb you used, validated, says it all. We're constantly comparing ourselves to others, particularly when we're young, partly because I think we're inexperienced and we are new travelers in the world, and we're finding our footsteps. And so we're constantly gauging what we do, who we are against other people. But I think, like I said, I think if I could go back, I would say just hold on. Even I would say my choice of university was partly dictated on, what my parents would think about me, what my contemporaries would think about me. I applied to Oxford, I didn't get in. I went to St Andrews, which is a really good university. It's probably the second or third best in the UK. But was it really the right university for me? I'm not sure. And then I started pursuing various different careers. But I would say a large percentage of those choices were dictated or certainly driven by a subconscious awareness of what others would think of me. And financially, of course, that's a huge thing. We want to be seen to be successful in monetary financial terms. We're perceived, or we like to think we're perceived, by the car we drive, the house we live in, the city we're in, the restaurants we go to, etc. But at the end of the day, if you're a hermit in a cave and you're happy, well, live with it.
Awesome. I think I frequently dwell on why people derive their self-value from their possessions. It's basically, I have a big expensive car, therefore I'm a valuable person. I have an attractive partner, therefore I am of the equal value in attractiveness, something like that.
Well, yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting you say that. I think it is part of living in a capitalist society, though, because basically, at the end of the day, everything's a commodity. So, and we're compared constantly to, we become, in a way, a commodity. I think in other societies where their community is structured slightly differently, perhaps they have different views of self-worth, and also, of course, living in a capitalist society, it's all about the individual. So we are constantly, as individuals, comparing ourselves to others, whereas more community-based societies, the individual doesn't come first. It's about serving the community, and it's the happiness, the collective happiness of the community that comes first. So I would say it's the flip side of capitalism, is that we are self-obsessed about individuality and where we stand in comparison to others, whether it's looks, stature, job, car, whatever. It's all part of it. We've actually become a commodity ourselves. I'm not an advocate for extreme communism, but I do think that capitalism has had its time. To be honest, I think it's time now to reevaluate where we are and possibly think of other models.
However, the concern, or the, I would say, reason, well, let me put it like this. The reason why people use external materials to derive their value, or use them to derive their value, is because the internal value is not recognized. It is not, it's I think that's why people gravitate towards these possessions, or to
I would
seeking
say so.
validation.
Yeah.
However, if you look at more collectivist systems, where you say let's say the well-being of the group is prioritized over the well-being of the individual, then you run the risk of, again, the individual being able to manifest their authentic potential, which is what I think the ultimate goal is. You know what I mean? So on
Oh,
both
absolutely.
systems, so the capitalist system, we've overlooked the individual value, and people are sort of feel empty. And then in the collectivist system, that you also run the risk of the individual value
Well,
being overlooked.
yeah, I would agree. I think if the extreme version of the collective system would be the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, where everything was subjective to the community, the collective view, and therefore individual rights to cease to matter at all, and therefore it leads to enormous abuse, doesn't it, of human rights. But I do think under capitalism, I think we've kind of usurped God to a certain extent. I think mammon, I think materialism has become our God, and then you get a lot of vacuous, empty lives with people who just fill their lives with constantly buying, consuming. When I say consuming, I don't necessarily mean material things. It's consuming time as well, and so we're constantly filling our lives with things actually that are very nebulous, that are here today, gone tomorrow, obsolete, really. And I think that's partly a decline in religious belief, certainly in the West.
God
I
is
mean,
dead.
yeah, absolutely. I think God is dead, and certainly, materialism is everything, and that all comes to is all part, I think, of a move to a more urban existence. We've kind of lost touch with nature, I think, and certainly lost touch with a deity, and people's gods have changed. People's gods are other things that are very, really vacuous and vain, really.
Oh, thanks for. I think it's awesome you speak about it so openly. I want to hear your opinion on this. I think the deities, or let's say the concept of God, is an abstraction of human nature, of something within the human, and the death of God therefore is equal to humans severing the connection with themselves because God is an abstraction of themselves. Because I mean, when you bring up the topic of God or deities into discussions, people very often switch off. They think they don't really grasp what's going on, or they box it in very quickly. What's your opinion on deities or God?
Well, yeah, you make a good point. That I think that's part of the issue, is that we've come to a point in human development where even the discussion of God or a deity is almost seen as being completely anachronistic. It's almost as if, what? I mean, you're talking about God. Do you actually believe in God? I think technology and science have, in many people's views, made God redundant. I mean, the whole idea. So therefore, it's considered deeply untrendy, very old-fashioned, and actually, I think your vast majority, I think, people who view others who have a particular faith, I think often think it's almost fringe weird, really. How can you possibly, in the face of science and technology, how can you possibly continue to believe in such things? And I think that's an effect of where we've come, not only societally but politically, with capitalism and putting materialism above, in a way, spirituality. Is that we just blipped there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to move over here so I can you still see me?
Yeah, that's fine.
We're reconnecting a bit. So my own personal view, but I certainly don't want to bore you about. But I'm a Christian, definitely. I mean, that's where I come from. Not only because that's the culture I was born into. As an adult, I've found that's the religion that suits my personal lifestyle best. But irrespective of Christianity, to me, it's blindingly obvious that there is a greater force out there, call it what you will, and that we are not alone in terms of we are not the masters of our destiny. To me, that's obvious.
Do
you asked about deity. That would be my answer, is that I think it's all around us.
Yes.
And I think perhaps this COVID has in a way emphasized that, is that we are not in control. We're at the mercy of microbes, let alone larger forces. And to think that we are masters of the universe, I think is hubris, is arrogance at its ultimate.
This is a big statement, but that's it's a Luciferian trait to hubris, and so I guess, yeah, I know. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Carl Jung.
Yes. Well, I mean, particularly from his interpretation of dreams. But
yes,
that's where my knowledge of him. Yeah.
I mean, he was big on archetypes and the collective unconscious. I don't know if you're familiar with his concepts, but he said the fate of humanity depends on the ability for us to unify science and religion. And if we fall into the one-dimensional belief of science, we are, not.
Well, what I find deeply ironic is that up until probably up until Darwin, I think people, certainly in the Western world, accepted various Christian biblical ideas as truth, and you only have to go back to the 14th century where people believed the world was flat. But certainly up to Darwin, so we're talking 1830s, 1840s, religious belief was not questioned. Now, I can see that we've come a long way since then, and I'm certainly not advocating going back to those times. But I think what's happened now is that science and technology has become the new religion.